Okay, here we go with the second part in the scientific notation series, and this is going to be doing some math with scientific notation. And what you will see for both my integrated 2 and chemistry classes, to make sure that you really understand how the exponents work, I'll have a brief section where you will have to multiply or divide numbers in scientific notation without a calculator. Or at best a calculator that does not have any kind of exponent function. So let's skip ahead to where the video, skip through these. I am going to tell you here, just because so many people ask, how to properly type this in if you have a calculator, and then we'll get to doing the math without a calculator. The key thing is, if you don't if you prefer to type it as times 10 to the exponent, and you don't put that in parentheses, your calculator is going to treat the times and the 10 with an exponent as sort of a separate number. So it can lead to order of operation mistakes, particularly if you're dividing by the number in scientific notation. So if you like to type it in so that you have, number, decimal point, number times 10, and you'll probably have that little caret symbol on your calculator, number. Make sure you put that whole quantity inside of parentheses. So this is option 1. However, many calculators have an EE button. If you're using your iPhone, which you shouldn't be using in class, but let's say you're at home, if you're using your iPhone, if you turn it sideways and get the scientific view, you can see that EE button, and that takes the place of both the multiply and the 10. So sometimes students will remember that and they'll enter it, but they'll still put in maybe the multiplication symbol, or they'll still put in the 10, and it just does some funky things. So your option 2, if you have an EE button, all that you would have to type in is number, your kind of the decimal portion of your number, and then you're going to hit that EE button. So you're going to hit that button. It'll probably show up as just a single E on your screen, but anyway, the buttons are almost always listed as EE, and then you're going to enter just your exponent. So no multiplication sign, no times, no 10. And the really nice thing about this is it's not required to have this in parentheses, because if you use this button on your calculator here, it'll recognize it as one thing. So that might save you some keystrokes, but it's always a safe bet to type it in this way if you remember to put it in parentheses. All right, moving on to the math. So we're going to look at multiplication first. So the kind of problem that I might ask you to do without the use of a calculator, without a scientific calculator, is I've got 2 numbers in scientific notation, and I'm asking you to multiply them. And this is going to be your series of steps. You're going to look at your regular numbers, the decimal part of it, not the exponents, and you're going to multiply that out just like normal. 1.5 times 6 is 9. Now I'm going to write that as 9.0 just so that we can keep track of where the decimal's at. Since it's multiplication, when you multiply exponents, if they have the same base, which in this case is 10, when you multiply exponents, you add the exponents. So what we have here is we have 10 to the 3 plus a negative 2, which equals 10 to the first power. And then we're going to put those together. 9 times 10 to the first power. And that would be our answer. All right, sometimes when you're multiplying, you will get numbers that are larger than 9. You'll have, something bigger than 10. And remember, proper scientific notation tells you to be in the correct form, you can only have a 1 through 9 in front of that decimal. So we're going to have to move the decimal around. So let's look at this example. Again, you're going to take your 2 decimal numbers, the 9 and the 3, and you're going to multiply them, and we're going to get 27. I'll stick that 0.0 on there to keep track of the decimal. And again, multiplication, we're going to add exponents. So 10 to the second power multiplied by 10 to the fourth power is equal to 10 to the 2 plus 4 power, which equals 10 to the 6. And when we put those together, we get this. Now your calculator would recognize that. That's a true mathematical statement. It's the same as the correct answer, but it's just not proper scientific notation. So what we need to do, because we have two numbers in front of the decimal, we need to move the decimal one place over. So we're now going to be 2.7 times, and since we move the decimal, we need to adjust our exponent. I went from 27 to 2.7, so I made the decimal part of my number smaller, so that means my exponent needs to go up. So if it's a multiplication, you're going to end up adding 1 to the exponent when you adjust it to get into proper scientific notation. All right, let's look now. Logically, you probably guessed division. Same thing, you're going to divide your regular numbers. And now you can probably guess it because you're smart critters. If you add the exponents when you multiply, when you divide, you are going to subtract. So let's run through these steps. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Subtract my exponents. 10 to the 5th divided by 10 to the 3rd equals 10 to the 5 minus a negative 3. I gotta work the negative exponents in there so you don't get slipped up. 5 minus a negative 3 is 8. We put the 2 together and we get 4.0 times 10 to the 8th. All right. And if you're really on your toes, you'll probably guess that we can have the same sort of issue that we had with multiplying, only now instead of having more than one digit in front of the decimal, we might have things with less than one digit in front of the decimal. And we will adjust that accordingly. So what I've got here is I have my regular numbers. 2 divided by 4, please don't say 2. 2 divided by 4 is a half, so 0.5. And I'm going to subtract my exponents. 10 to the 6th divided by 10 to the 4th equals 10 to the 6 minus 4, which equals 10 to the 2. When I put those together, 0.5 times 10 to the 2nd power. Again, correct mathematically, that's the same value as the correct answer, just not good scientific notation. I need to move the decimal over so that I have one number in front of it. In this case, I went from 0.5 to 5, so I made the decimal part larger, so that means my exponent needs to get smaller by one place. And this is what your answer should look like for that. And so you can count on seeing some of this math. You can also count on having to adjust the decimal both for multiplication, where you'll end up adding to the exponent, and for division, where you'll end up subtracting from the exponent. I'm going to flip over here. This is showed in class, but these are some example problems that you can try without a calculator to make sure that you're prepared. So you could pause the video here and look at that, and thanks for watching.